One site improves delivery. Quality escapes fall. The daily meeting gets shorter. People start raising risk before the customer does. Corporate visits. Corporate takes pictures. Then corporate does what corporate often does. It creates a rollout. The same boards, the same meeting time, the same templates, the same vocabulary, the same slide deck. 6 months later, the tools are everywhere. The behavior is nowhere. The organization copied the ritual. It did not recreate the conditions that made the ritual work. Quick note before we begin. The views shared on Compass to Practice are my personal views and do not reflect those of my employer or any current or former company. I do not share confidential, proprietary, customer-specific, or employer-specific information on this podcast. Welcome to Compass to Practice, where leaders turn intention into behavior. I'm your host, Antonio Irizarry, and today's episode is Scaling Change Without Copy-Paste. Replication feels efficient. If something works in one place, copying it seems faster than rediscovering it everywhere else. And some things should absolutely be standardized. Safety requirements, regulatory controls, core quality standards, financial governance, data definitions, customer commitments. The problem begins when leaders confuse the standard with the practice. A standard defines what must be protected. A practice defines how a team will protect it in a particular context. The standard may be global. The practice may need local design. For example, every site may need a daily way to surface quality, delivery, and safety risk. But the exact meeting time, board layout, escalation route, and participants may differ based on shift structure, product mix, geography, technology, and decision rights. When leaders copy the practice without understanding the problem it solved, the practice becomes theater. People perform the template because leadership is watching. The underlying condition remains unchanged. There are 5 reasons copy-paste transformation fails. First, the local problem is different. The successful site may have needed faster escalation. The receiving site may need better planning discipline, skill development, or supplier control. The same tool can be applied to a different constraint and produce little value. Second, local leaders did not help design the change. People support what they help create. That does not mean every standard is optional. It means local ownership must exist in the way the standard is practiced. Third, the rollout copies visible artifacts and misses invisible conditions. The board is visible. The trust that makes people write red on the board is not. The meeting agenda is visible. The leader's response when someone brings bad news is not. The template is visible. The months of follow-through that made the template credible are not. Fourth, the rollout moves faster than local trust. A site that has learned to hide risk will not become honest because a new dashboard appears. The first truth teller still needs protection. The first promise still needs to be kept. The first leader still needs to respond without blame. Fifth, the organization measures implementation instead of impact. How many sites installed the boards? How many people completed training? How many meetings were scheduled? Those are implementation measures. The deeper measures are risks surfacing earlier? Are decisions faster? Is rework falling? Are handoffs clearer? Are customers experiencing fewer surprises? Here is the principle. Scale principles. Co-design practices. The principle is the reason. The practice is the local behavior. The measure is the proof. For example, principle, bad news must travel early. Local practice, a 15-minute daily risk huddle, a digital escalation channel, or a shift change board. Measure, time from risk detection to named owner, and percentage of issues raised before customer impact. Another example, principle, verification cannot be traded for schedule without visible risk acceptance. Local practice, a signed form, a digital workflow, or a tiered approval path. Measure, verification reductions with documented approval and repeat failure rate. The principle stays stable. The practice fits the context. The measure tells you whether the principle is becoming behavior. Here is the practice for this episode, the 2-week discovery sprint. Use it before you roll out a major practice to a new site, function, or team. Week 1 is discovery. Days 1 and 2, go see. Observe the actual work. Do not begin with the enterprise presentation. Follow one customer request, one product, one service ticket, or one decision from start to finish. Write 5 facts you can verify. Ask where the work waits, loops, or loses ownership. Days 3 and 4, listen. Interview people at different levels and functions. Ask, what makes this work harder than it should be? What do people avoid saying in meetings? What problem repeats? What workaround keeps the system moving? What is leadership measuring that does not reflect reality? Day 5, map product, process, and people. Product, what customer value or requirement must be protected? Process, where does flow break, wait, or repeat? People, what trust, skill, ownership, or behavior condition affects the work? Circle the constraint that, if improved, unlocks the most value. Week 2 is experiment. Day 6, choose one principle and one local practice. Do not launch the whole system. Select the smallest, meaningful pilot. Days 7 through 9, run the pilot in real work. Observe behavior, not only compliance. What changed? What resisted? What new burden did the practice create? What signal appeared earlier? Day 10, review the learning publicly. Keep, adjust, or stop the practice. Name what is global and non-negotiable. Name what is local and adaptable. Then define the next test. That is the discovery sprint. Go see, listen, map, pilot, learn. A useful rollout document has 2 columns. The first column is enterprise non-negotiables. These are the outcomes, controls, or principles that must remain stable. The second column is local design choices. These are the methods the local team can shape within guardrails. For a daily management system, the non-negotiables might be quality, delivery, safety, and people risk are reviewed every working day. Every red condition has an owner and a due time. Risks that exceed local authority escalate within a defined window. Follow-through is visible. The local design choices might be meeting time, physical or digital board, exact participants, visual format, local escalation channel. This preserves consistency without pretending every operation is identical. The key is to standardize the purpose and the control, not every gesture. Case 1, visual management rollout. A high-performing site uses a physical board at 7 a.m. Corporate copies the board to every location. One receiving site has 3 shifts, remote engineering support, and a planning cycle that closes at noon. The 7 a.m. board becomes a reporting exercise. Decisions still happen later in private messages. A discovery sprint reveals that the site needs a brief shift handoff, a noon cross-functional decision huddle, and a digital escalation path. The principle is preserved. Risk is visible and owned daily. The practice changes. Case 2, Safety Observation Program. One plant improves safety through peer observations and immediate correction. Another site copies the forms, but has a history of using observations for discipline. Employees avoid reporting anything meaningful. The local problem is not observation frequency, it is trust. The first pilot must protect the reporter, separate learning from punishment, and close the loop visibly. Same standard, different starting condition. Case 3, Artificial Intelligence Workflow. A customer service team uses an AI assistant successfully. Leadership deploys the same tool globally and measures login rates. At another site, the knowledge base is outdated, approvals are unclear, and employees do not trust the recommendations. The tool scales. The decision quality does not. A discovery sprint identifies the real work. Clean the source data, define human decision rights, test the workflow on one category, and measure error detection and cycle time. Technology does not remove the need for local understanding. It increases it. Choose one change your organization plans to copy. Before the rollout, answer 5 questions. What problem did this practice solve in the original location? Is that the same constraint here? What principle must remain non-negotiable? What part should the local team design? What evidence will prove the behavior changed, not just the template? Then, schedule a 2-week discovery sprint. Do not ask the local team to defend why they are different. Ask them to show you what is true. Humility is not lowering the enterprise standard. Humility is admitting that context matters. Clarity is defining what cannot drift. Courage is stopping a rollout that looks complete but is not creating value. Empathy is involving the people who will live with the practice after the rollout team leaves. Ask yourself, where are we copying a ritual without understanding the condition? What local voice is missing from the design? What would we learn before we scale if copying were not allowed? If this episode helped, follow Compass to Practice and share it with one transformation leader who is being asked to replicate success across different realities. Scale principles, co-design practices, measure behavior. Until next time, turn intention into behavior. Follow me on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you want more information, visit my website www.compasstopractice.com.